So I want to thank everybody for coming to the beginning of our 2025 SALT Talks. It seems so hard to believe that we have hit 2025. And actually, for the Montgomery Greene and Warren County areas, this marks 10 years for SALT. I started 10 years ago. In January 10 years ago. It's like hard to believe it's been, we've come this far, and so much has changed since then, I must say, between all the new avenues with Zoom and, going from in-person to online to in-person online to, all the options we have now. So I want to welcome everybody to our SALT Talks tonight. Tonight we are going to be, the month of January, the theme is independent living. Why we always have to hit independent living because that always follows transition. There's always that time frame. And I wanted to address tonight, who can you talk to? Because so many times you start going through it. I mean, it can be anywhere during transition, whether it's when your child is first diagnosed, maybe when they're in smaller, younger, or maybe later years, you get a diagnosis, or after they're done high school, you're like, who can I talk to about this? My child, I'm having difficulty with this area, or we don't know what activities we can participate in, or where can we go for answering this question? So tonight, I wanted to kick off our independent living with who can I talk to? Now, when you're listening to these different ones, we have a speaker from the Down Syndrome Association of Greater Cincinnati, and then we have Autism Connections, and they are in Southwest Ohio. Theresa Harris will be joining us soon. She has RPM, and which is with nonverbal and autistic. But when you're talking to any of these or listening to their presentation, they know people. So I can't emphasize enough, no matter where you are in the state of Ohio, they know somebody, whether it's associated with their group, whether it's Down syndrome or autism, or, maybe you're dealing with cerebral palsy or, another. They all know connection. So it's always helpful to ask questions. No, you can reach out to them. I've gone to them with other questions, and they're not limited on just that diagnose. They help wide range of disabilities. So with that, we will turn it over. Did anybody decide who wanted to go first? Does it matter? Okay. Well, I'll turn it over to Molly, if it's okay. I'll let you start. And then Mary Helen, and then it looks like Theresa got on. I'll let Theresa be third then, if that works.
Sure.
And I'm going to turn it over to Molly, and I'll let you introduce yourself and your group, and let me know if you have any issues with bringing up the presentation.
Right. Can you see it?
Yep, it's there.
All right. Okay, wonderful. Well, good evening. Thank you so much for having us tonight. My name is Molly Blaker, and I'm here with my coworker, Stephanie Daly. And as mentioned, we're from the Down Syndrome Association of Greater Cincinnati, and I work as an outreach specialist, and Stephanie works as our young adult coordinator. So thanks so much for having us. We're excited to be here. Okay, I'm going to try. Oh, shoot. I'm trying to move my slide. There we go. Okay. I'm sorry, I'm not great at Zoom, so I appreciate your patience. The mission of our association is to empower individuals, educate families, enhance communities, and together celebrate the extraordinary lives of people with Down syndrome. So to do that, we serve 12 counties in the tri-state area. This includes 8 counties in Ohio, 3 in Northern Kentucky, and 1 in Indiana. We offer programs for all ages, from the time of the diagnosis through the entire lifespan. So as soon as a family has received a diagnosis, either prenatal or at birth, We're there to support the family however they might need assistance when the time is right for them. We offer educational and social programs for individuals and families. Examples of programs include tumbling, visits from the museum center, music classes, story time with the librarian, play groups, martial arts, bike camp, Girl Scouts, college visits, game nights, transportation trainings, dances, employment workshops, concert tours, learning labs, weekend retreats, and probably what we're most known for is our buddy walk. So Stephanie is going to share more specifics about the programs and opportunities we provide for young adults. And this is a very active area for our association. Along with programming, we have a staff person designated to support families in different age groups. So these age group coordinators offer guidance and help families make connections to support their loved ones. We also focus on outreach in the community by collaborating with educators, employers, and medical personnel. We work to connect our association to services and opportunities that benefit our families. Another area you might be interested in knowing about is our community groups. We have groups led by volunteer leaders who are passionate about supporting other families, either in their area of town, those with common interest, or with children of a similar age. We have community groups by location, so families can get to know and support those who live nearby. Community groups have also been formed due to commonalities or special interest, such as our African American Family Network, Hispanic group, homeschool families, grandparent group, and teen club. We also have birth year groups, so families can connect with other families who might be experiencing common things at similar times. I'm going to go ahead and turn things over to Stephanie now so she can share about our young adult programs.
All right. Hello, everyone. Like Molly said, my name is Stephanie Daly, and I'm our young adult coordinator at the Down Syndrome Association of Greater Cincinnati. So, in a nutshell, I'm in charge of everything that has to do with our 18 to 34-year-old individuals with Down syndrome. Now, there's a little bit of overlap with our school age coordinator who goes up to 18, but if you're still in school until that 22 age, you can still use her for resources. So there's a little bit of overlap in that transition age. I also have overlap with our aging specialist who is in charge of our 35 plus. We do a lot together because just because you turn 35 doesn't mean you can't come to our dance or come to one of my programs and those kinds of things. So in general, our young adult program focuses on offering a variety of social and educational events related to 6 core needs that we have found for adults with Down syndrome. And these include housing, full employment, transportation, healthcare, social networking, and aging. And we also help our adults connect with their communities. Okay, so like Molly said, we do a lot of programming. That young adult age group is so important. We're leaving school, we're leaving our communities that we've had for many years, and we're trying to find new communities and get connected and everything. So we offer tons and tons of programming that's educational, therapeutic, recreational, and social. And this is just kind of a little bit of a taste of some of our programming. We're running programming all year long on a quarterly basis. Some of it spans multiple quarters, but just for some examples, some of our educational programs, we have a lifelong learning labs for our young adults who are out of school anymore and would like to still work on those writing skills, those math skills, those reading skills, and social skills as well. We also do employment soft skills. For therapeutic, we have a speech therapy program. That's our TEL program that we partner with grad students at the University of Cincinnati and a speech language pathologist to offer like small group speech therapy sessions. My background is in physical therapy before I started at the DSAGC, so that's something I've really tried to bring into my role over the last year and a half. And so we try to do PT things. So as we age and our individuals with Down syndrome, just low muscle tone, decreased strength, falls and balance is something we need to work on. So we bring in some of those elements as a therapeutic aspect as well. We've recently, our aging coordinator brought in drumming for wellness and has been a giant hit with our young adults. So I have yet, they always do it on days that I'm not there. I haven't gotten to see it yet, but I hear great things about it. And then recreational, we're always doing some fun stuff out in the community. So we've got functional fitness is a workout class that we're starting in a couple weeks. We do golf, self-defense. I recently just finished up our leisure exploration program where for 3 weeks, we pick 2 different activities and our young adults have to pick one of them. So they can either try something new that they've never done before or do something that they know that they like and just get more exposure to things to fill their leisure time. And then we do tons of social art and apps. We eat food and we make crafts and they're really fun Friday night. We have themed dances at least once a quarter. So decades dance was something we started last year and we all dressed up in the decade we were born, because when you look at our adult program is 18 plus, that spans a lot of decades. So it was really fun to get everybody dressed up and everything. Our kindness crew is our volunteering group. So 1 to 2 times a quarter, we partner with different community organizations and just go out and volunteer and kind of give back to our community. So, and there's many more. I could have used a couple slides, but this is just a little bit of an example of all of the programming that we do offer to our young adults to get provide them with opportunities and new experiences and making friends and community connection. Okay, so next up is our Find Your Way program. So this is when we're talking about independent living and self-determination, this is kind of our big set of programs that we offer at the Down Syndrome Association. It originally started with 1 independent living retreat and has since grown over the last years, and we offer 4 different retreats focused on independent living. Each year, I have consults with my young adults and their parents, and we kind of figure out what retreat is going to be the best fit for you based off where you are on your journey and whatever independence might look like for you. So they range from a 1-day retreat if you're just kind of tipping your toes and, hey, where might I want to live one day? Do I want a roommate? Who's going to cook my food when I don't live at home? How am I going to get my groceries? So we're just kind of tipping our toes in. That's our Ignite retreat, and that's a 1-day retreat. Accelerate is our overnight weekend retreat at a college campus. So that's for our young adults who are comfortable staying overnight and they're interested in starting to work on some of those independent living skills. So our next retreat is our Navigate retreat, and this is another overnight. This one is for young adults who think that they might be ready to move out in the next year, or they're ready to kind of see what it's like to live more independently. So we stay overnight in Airbnbs and we kind of practice what it's like to have a roommate or an apartment in a safe space. And we fill the weekend through, I always call it a working weekend. You have to do everything you would have to do if you're on your normal weekend. We go to the grocery store, we clean, we cook all of our meals, we figure out hanging out with our friends, all of those sorts of skills in a safe place before they move out, so they can kind of see what they still might need to work on, what areas they can improve in, what they're doing a really good job at right now before looking into those next steps. Our cruise retreat is our retreat for our adults who already live on their own and connecting with adults in similar living situations so they can make friends, but also there's always room for improvement. And we work heavily on goals at our cruise retreat and making new goals and seeing ways that even though we live on independently or with roommates and support staff coming in, how can we still become more independent and live a more self-determined life? So those are our 4 retreats. And on top of that, we also do tune-up classes. If you haven't noticed, it's a car theme. All of our retreats and things are car themed. So our tune-ups are our collection of life skills classes that based from these retreats, we decided, hey, why not offer more practice for these skills? And so we, about 4 or 5 times a quarter, we get together and we work on different skills. We do a lot. I have a kitchen safety class coming up in a couple weeks. We worked on budgeting. We work on scheduling appointments, cooking. We started just preparing, and then we microwave, air fryer. We work our way up. We worked on household organization a couple weeks ago. So just kind of based off of feedback from the consults that I have with families, what areas we need a little bit extra help with. That's kind of where we find the topics for our tune-up classes. So anybody who's ever heard me talk about Find Your Way, I always call it my baby. So this, I'm very, very excited to talk about this and stuff too. So we do a lot of working on this independence and these self-determination skills with our young adults. So kind of working on all of that transition skills as well. Okay, and then finally, for our young adults, we also have social clubs. So these social clubs provide an opportunity for our young adults with Down syndrome to take a little bit more of a leadership role in planning and implementing their own social activities. And so each club consists of 4 to 8 young adults with Down syndrome and 2 peer partners. So these peer partners are volunteers that are provided by the DSAGC to kind of support the club. So they kind of help with determining scheduling, like what day might work best. Sometimes they help picking activities or giving ideas for activities for the social club to do. And they're at all the activities to kind of help supervise and those kinds of things. And these, like I said, these social clubs, their goal is to meet regularly once a month, and they try to make a consistent schedule so like everybody can get it on their calendars and make it there. They also operate independently. I think we have 12 different social clubs, and they're some of them are geographic, like based off geographic location. So you're not driving all the way over to the other side of town. You have a social club and peers that you can hang out with close to home. And these are meant to enhance our young adult social lives. Social clubs are not meant to be the only social activity that they're doing. So, but yeah, and like the peer partners, they are same age. I've had friends who have been peer partners, and it's really exciting. Right now we're having like a new wave of peer partners of like college age, and starting some new peer social clubs. So that's a little bit of everything that we do. But yeah, so that's.
I'll stop our screen share. Did that work?
Yep, you got
Okay.
it. And there was a few questions or a couple
Oh, sure.
questions. On the Find Your Way program, they were asking, we had a question out there, is it open to adults with disabilities other than Down syndrome? And if so, has this occurred in the past?
So I'll take that one. Right now, we are only open to young adults with Down syndrome because we're heavily grant funded for this programming right now. My dream, and Molly has heard me talk about this many times, is I would love to be able to expand this one day to other disability organizations, other Down syndrome associations. Right now, we're just kind of we're still like developing as the program grows and things. So right now we're only open to young adults with Down syndrome, but one day my hope is that this will be a program for the larger community.
Yes,
Now,
I think you know a little bit more than I do. Do you want to speak to some of the things that are open to other individuals? Like I know our upcoming winter dance is open, and just some of the other items that are open.
Yes. Yeah. So like Molly said, our winter dance that's coming up in 3 weeks now that it is January, that is open to anyone, any diagnosis. A lot of our social events, we open to any diagnosis. If you're young adult or anybody wants to come to any of our dances, our art and apps, or anything that doesn't necessarily have like a grant funding with it, we can have anybody. It's just sometimes when we get tied into the grants that we're using, we get a little pigeonholed with diagnosis. But any of our social events, and anybody's more than welcome to sign up.
Great, thank you. That, yeah, that was a question I had too, that had come up, if, who could attend what. And then is it pretty much, do you have people coming from outside of the Cincinnati area, or do you have people attending from other
So
surrounding
yes,
counties?
yeah, so we have 8 counties in Ohio. So I think who is on here tonight, Butler and Warren maybe would be
Mhm.
part of our 8. Montgomery is not. But we do oftentimes get people reaching out from other counties that we're happy to talk to and provide support. Obviously, we just know a little bit more about resources and things that are more in the counties that we serve.
And you would be able to connect a family if they were from an area, you could connect them with a local Down syndrome. You have contact with
Sure.
some of the other ones in the other areas of Ohio, correct? Okay,
Yes.
Yeah.
all right. Does anybody else have any other questions? I saw just the one in the chat box, but I just wanted to double check. All right. Do you guys have anything else to add, or?
No, I think.
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
If you
Very
would be interested in checking out our programs, those are all on our website. So you could look there. And of course, if you have any questions about if you'd be able to register for something, feel free to give us a call or send an email.
Can you put any of your website or contact information in the chat box so they
Sure.
can grab that?
Definitely do that.
And they
Yep,
can,
I got it. I'm on it.
awesome. Wonderful. Thank you, Stephanie. All right. Well, if there's nothing else on for the Down syndrome at this moment, if those who are attending think of a question, feel free to put it in the chat box. At the end of this session, I'll stop the recording so that you can, openly ask a question as well. So to make, if you don't want to type, that's okay. We understand, I'll stop the recording and then we could just unmute and you can ask. So, I will go ahead and turn it over to Mary Helen then, from the Autism Connections.
Awesome. Thank you, Patty. So
Mhm.
Stephanie, I cannot believe that you didn't mention Wellness Without Limits. Come on, girl. So,
I do apologize. I was at the PT clinic today, so my brain is
okay.
a bunch of different ways, but yes.
So
Yeah.
I'm going to steal your thunder on this one. And one of the things that the Down Syndrome Association and Autism Connections are partnering on, which I'm really excited, along with a couple of other organizations here in Cincinnati, is a program in 2025, a monthly program called Wellness Without Limits, where our goal is to foster inclusive health and wellness opportunities and meet the unique needs of people with disabilities. So we're still in the planning stages of what all that will look like, but we'll have yoga. We did Zumba as a trial last fall. So lots of things coming with that. Like I said, you're going to hear from all of us on that at some point. So keep it in mind. Wellness Without Limits is coming, and that is really a collaborative effort between 5 organizations. Empower Me Living, Autism Connections, the Down Syndrome Association, Collective Visions, and Dr. Laura Neighbors. I was like, hold on, I'm going to get the last one. So keep that in mind. That's coming. All right, with that, I am Mary Helen Reeker. I am the CEO of Autism Connections, and I have 2 staff members with me today. Cindy Ardema, who is our outreach coordinator, and she'll be talking a little later on some of the helpline and social and support groups that we offer. And our new program director, who now is not on my screen, Christina Armstrong-Cattani, who is here because she's not done this presentation before. So, but she will probably know some of the answers to some of your questions even better than I do. So with that, I'm going to talk a little bit about what we do. So for some of you, you may hopefully our name Autism Connections, people know who we are now. But we were 2 years ago, we were Autism Society Greater Cincinnati. So I just want to put that in context. We're not a new organization. We've been around 53 years serving the Southwest Ohio Greater Cincinnati area. I love how the Down Syndrome Association knew how many counties. We, I don't know how many counties. We serve all of Southwest Ohio, as far north as Dayton. 3 counties, I will tell you, 3 counties in Kentucky and 1 in Indiana. But we kind of serve that generally. Dayton and South, we've had people from Brown County, so kind of take this chunk of Southwest Ohio. I will also say that if we have virtual programming, we serve anybody who's available and wants to log in. So, and we'll talk a little bit about some of our virtual programming. Okay, you can go to the next slide, Patty. We really have taken a strong focus in the last 2 years on programming and services for teens and adults for that transition age and beyond. Does not mean that we don't do things for smaller kids, but we really focus on our teens and adults because that's where we know we spend most of our lives as adults. So we have divided our programming really into 4 areas. Social skills, recreational and social activities for kids, teens, and adults. So fun programming. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. Life skills classes. So more training classes where we work on specific types of skills and skills retention. We also do support groups and a helpline, which I'll have Cindy talk about in a minute. And then we do a lot of community trainings on what is autism, autism in the workplace, how do you interact with people with autism. Just as for example, I had a president of a bank ask me, so how do I identify that someone has autism so that I can treat them the way you're asking me to treat people? And I'm like, you don't have to do that. You just treat everybody like I'm telling you to treat them, right? Whatever their and we were talking about accommodations, treat them with whatever, they need, because we're talking about individual accommodations and, individual work with individuals. So we really want to kind of demystify that disability means treating someone differently. It means doing what you do with everyone. We treat everyone a little differently. We meet them where they're at. So we do a lot of community trainings in that area. Let's go to the next slide. So again, kind of these are the areas that we serve the community. And we'll talk a little bit more, I think, because Patty's running the slides. I don't have them up on my other computer. But we'll talk about a little more of all of these areas as we go. Let's go to the next slide, because I think we delve a little deeper into, some of them. So let me start with some of our social activities. So I want to mention that we still do programming for littles in the social area. We meet once a month for 2 hours, and we do a variety of activities. We are partnering with Linden Grove School for these activities, so they're all over at Linden Grove, and they have we do a number of things. So a craft project, a sensory activity, a physical activity, really getting kids to explore their creativity. Too often in the world of autism, people say, oh, kids with autism aren't creative. Well, that's so not true. We're just not exploring it. So we give kids opportunities to do that. The other piece of that, we really try to build in side-by-side play in a lot of our kids exploring fun activities, right? Because what we're trying to work on, what we like to do is therapeutic, although it is not therapy, right? So I want to be clear, we're not therapists, but we do try to build in what is side-by-side play? What does cooperation look like? All of those pieces, because we know in the world of autism, those social skills are really, really difficult for a lot of our kids. So, so we do a lot of that with our kids exploring. The other social activities we have are Teen Time Hangouts. They meet monthly in person, and we really bring them a variety of activities and let them choose. As teens, we are not mom is not planning activities for us to do, right? We're hanging out with our friends as neurotypicals. So we're trying to create a similar accepting experience for our teens, where they can come out, they hang out. Sometimes they just want to talk. Sometimes they want to do a craft activity. Sometimes they want to play a game, right? And we offer them a variety of different opportunities. It also comes with pizza, so who doesn't like that? Then we have our weekly game nights for adults, and those are weekly on Friday evenings, and we have a large group of adults who meet virtually to play games, and they're all facilitated. They also choose their activities. Sometimes they're competitive, sometimes they're relaxed, so it varies. We also have added, and I realized I should have updated this slide, Patty, because we also have added this past summer, we added adult socials that are in person. So we now meet once a month with our adults and we go somewhere fun and do something in the community. So we've been to places like Niederman Farm. We went fowling, which is football bowling. I don't know, is it fowling or foaling? Whatever it is. But we've done that. We had a Christmas party at March 1st Brewery. So we pick a variety of activities that get our adults exposure to a variety of environments. We do try to be conscious of some of the triggers that our adults have. At the same time, we also know that we have a whole lot of varied adults and they want to try new things. They won't try, but they're less likely to try them if they are not with a group of other people who will understand. All of these are facilitated, even if they're adult directed. So we will have planned the activity in broad strokes. We may let them decide what they want to do, but we always have facilitators and individuals there to support if we have, sensory challenges or social skills challenges as well. So those are our social activities. Next are our life skills programs. I did just notice that we did change the name of them, so I'll have to update these slides. See, I should have looked at these slides ahead of time, Patty. Our peers program is now called our Life Skills Relationships program. We have trimmed that to a 13-week course because 16 weeks felt a little long for some folks. So those courses, we have a course for teens and we have a course for adults. And in those, we really walk through what friendship looks like. We take all of those unwritten rules of friendship and all those social skills that we know that autistic individuals often struggle with, and we break them down into ways and techniques that make it easy and manageable. Now, one of the really important things that happens in our relationships class is that for both adults and teens, we now talk about dating. And some of it is in broad strokes. So for teens, we don't go into a lot of depth, but we do talk about appropriate dating and how to say no. And right. In our adult course, we talk at length about dating and dating pressure. We talk about self-identity. Because we really want people to be able to embrace who they are and then stand up for themselves. So we also talk about self-advocacy. In all of our life skills program, and I just want to, Michelle, you do not have to have an autism diagnosis to take these. We do not ever check a diagnosis. So if you think this would work for someone, absolutely they should attend. For all of our life skills programs, one of the things that I want to note that we do that we have found to be really important is every life skills program comes with a social coach component. What I mean by that is that it's typically a parent, but it does not have to be. Someone who comes and learns alongside, but not in the same room as our teen or adult. So while in one classroom we are talking to teens or talking to adults about the social skills necessary to make and keep friends, we're talking in another room to their social coach about how do you support your adult. I'll never forget that I had a parent in about our second or third class, just for example, who said to me, for her 32-year-old son, it's not a problem. I will just arrange with his friends' parents for them to get together. And I was like, time out, time out. If you do that, it's called a play date. And play dates stop long before 32. Just gonna say. Your adult needs to be able to call someone, text someone, right? Make their own plans. Yes, if you're their driver, they may need to talk to you about that, but this should be adult or teen directed, not parent directed. And so that's one of the really big things we work on with parents is how to support without doing for, right? Our goal really is independence or interdependence for our teens and adults. And the biggest way to learn that is to make sure that parents are supporting appropriately and not doing for when it's not necessary. So we also are launching, and I know it says in 2024, we piloted a program in 2024, and we're really blowing out our career program. So we are launching a brand new, bigger and better career program in 2025. For those of you who may have heard of Genesis at Work, Genesis at Work was an organization that was around for 2 years doing customized employment for people with disabilities. They have since closed their doors, and we have taken on their work. So we are building our career exploration course that will include 3 major career tracks. And Christina, if I say this wrong, please correct me. So the first track really is low support needs. So individuals who may need things like interview skills and workplace etiquette and executive functioning skills, but don't really necessarily need a job coach, right? Then we have, or a customized job. Then we have the supported or the customized approach, where someone may need more support in the job to learn the job, to manage the job. Someone may need it customized. So teaching some skills there, which will be just a little bit different than the first path. And the third path, which will likely not launch until early 2026, will be entrepreneurship. We're looking at individuals who cannot hold or choose not to hold traditional employment, and how do we have them, if they have a gift that they want to share and want to turn into a business, how can they turn that into a micro business? And then we did not manage financial literacy to launch that in 2024 just because of some staffing changes, but we are moving ahead with that here in 2025. So we're very, very excited about that. All right, let's go on to support groups. For this, I'll talk about the adults, and then I'm going to turn it over to Cindy to talk more about the parents and caregivers. So we have teen support group and adult support group. Teen support group is a little bit different. We're going to do a Saturday afternoon activity, but coordinated activity for our teens that will get them to talk, right? At teen time, they're hanging out. They're not necessarily talking about some of the challenges that they have and some of the things they could use support on. So we are piloting something this spring that we hope will give them kind of a comfortable place to do some coordinated activities and also get support. That will meet once a month. We also have a sibling support group that meets once a month, and that is online. Our adults meet every Sunday, twice in person and the remaining times online. And those are open to any adult 18 or older who wants to talk about their joys, challenges, get support from others. They're also facilitated, but we are not offering therapy or necessarily answers. We are simply giving support to others, right? They may come with a, hey, I'm having trouble, with my parents or with my work or whatever. And they can talk about that and get peer support from that. All right, Cindy, I'm going to let you talk a little bit about our other support groups.
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Cindy Artema, and as Mary Helen said, I work with Autism Connections as the outreach coordinator, and I'm also parent to a 21-year-old, very spirited daughter on the autism spectrum. So before I talk about the parent and caregiver support group that we offer, I just want to mention, so the adult support group, I'm kind of in a unique role with fielding and talking with people on our helpline, which I'll talk about a little further in this presentation. But I will say that what I'm really learning over these many, many months of adults attending the support group, it has become a really wonderful opportunity for friendship development. So our adult support groups that meet in person right now every other Sunday, many of them, there's quite a large group. They all go out to dinner, to a late dinner. There's a kind of a sports bar place very close, right around the corner from where they meet in person at Linden Grove School. And a lot of them, every time they meet, they all go and they go get something to eat or have a beer or whatever. And it's been a great opportunity. The feedback I've gotten is, many of them have struggled for a really long time as adults to find and make friends. And this has been a real nice pathway for them. So I'll just, it's a support group too. As Mary Helen said, they talk about anything they want to talk about while they're in the support group, and then they take it outside of that and more of a social, which that is not facilitated. It's something they do on their own, and it's really worked out nicely for a lot of them. So I know I've gotten a lot of feedback recently, and some new folks are starting to join kind of because they know there's that social piece that happens after. So that's been kind of just a happy circumstance of getting folks together and giving them a chance to meet other people. So the parent and caregiver support group. So I will be facilitating this one. So, and we also offer this same thing for Spanish speaking families with our coworker, Gabriella, who's not here tonight. Now, this is a slide that's not been updated yet for 2025. So we're changing it to the second Tuesday at lunchtime. So we got some feedback from some families, and it's been more challenging in the evenings for parents and caregivers to attend. So we're going to just try it out and do lunchtime online parent support groups. And then we also offer Sunday evenings on the off weeks for in-person parent or caregiver support groups. But generally, in the ones I've hosted in the past have, we intentionally don't set an agenda. Not to say we never will if there's something that people really want us to focus on, but we don't set an agenda. And then depending on who joins those calls, sometimes it's parents of younger, elementary aged students. Sometimes it's preschool age kids. Sometimes it's adults that are living at home and not working, and families are really just trying to navigate what's next for their adult. And oftentimes what happens is, I will of course share resources, and then the other families share it with each other. So it can be very, very helpful. And we are hopeful that word will spread that we offer this support group, during the day at lunchtime, second Tuesday of every month via Zoom. And same thing with, I don't know, Christina may be able to tell us, she's on the call, that she's been coordinating the new 2025 scheduling, if the Spanish support group will be at the same time, but we do offer that as well. So anything really that we offer, we have the ability to support Spanish speaking families as well.
And yes, Cindy, we do have it will be the same time.
Okay, great. So the helpline. So we have Autism Connections has a helpline that is either via email. Someone can send us an email with a question, or a request for assistance or something, we also have a phone number that they can call. And so those emails and those phone calls I field and respond to, and the themes kind of change, but are, sort of cyclical. I often will get family members that will call and say, Cincinnati Children's referred me to you. I have this sort of circumstance that I'm trying to navigate, or I have a younger child who was recently diagnosed and I really have no idea where even to start. Or I might have some families that say, I have an adult who is really struggling with making friends. That's a big piece of the work that we do, is really helping people navigate how to the social aspect of autism, and how to connect with people and how to integrate and build relationships. So I get calls from professionals as well, case managers, caseworkers from, Cincinnati, from Northern Kentucky, that are trying to find resources for people on their caseload. Sometimes therapists will call. So really, it's quite a wide variety. For quite a few months, the bulk of our phone calls that we received were people looking for providers that could do autism evaluations and possible diagnosis, not only for children, but for adults, people that are later in life and believe they may be on the autism spectrum, and looking for someone that can help determine if that's the case. So we try to connect people with providers that can do those evaluations and those, assessments and diagnostic tests. So really, whatever someone needs or is looking for, we try to meet them where they are. We don't necessarily have the answer for everything, but we have a pretty deep bank of resources and a lot of, connections throughout greater Cincinnati and beyond. And we kind of look for whatever they need. And as Mary Helen said, I also couldn't say how many counties we serve, but even out of state, people sometimes will call me from out of state and just wanting some general, information, or, kind of what sort of agency should we be looking at, or what kinds of things should we be doing. So some of that is transferable even out of state. It's just, these are the kinds of things to look for, or I can help you. What county do you live in the state of Maryland? Let me see what I can find. So, we just will be a resource for whoever we can help.
I mentioned earlier that one of the things that we do are trainings. So we do a variety of trainings for first responders on what autism is, how to interact with people with autism, because we find that often people really don't understand, because as we hear from people, you don't look autistic. Right. So when then we have a challenge with an individual who is not responding, or not responding in a way that we would expect, that we have first responders who aren't sure how to handle that. So we do a lot of first responder trainings. We also, as I mentioned earlier, train businesses, we train educators. We're starting workplace trainings as well. So anyone who is interested in learning more about autism, how to work with autism, interact with autistic people, those are the kind of trainings that we do across the board. And I think this is our last slide on how to get a hold of us. I think I took up more than my time, so I apologize for that. I tried to pack a whole lot in a very little time.
Thank you, Mary Ellen. And it looks like you caught a lot of the questions that were coming up on the chat box, I believe. If you can put your contact information, I'll take this down, so then Theresa, well, we'll pull hers up. But if you can put any contact information in the chat box that people can copy. And then Mary Helen, would you be sending me an updated version of the
I will.
presentation? Okay.
Yep.
All right. Let me stop sharing this. And we will turn it over to Theresa. Theresa, do you have your presentation, or do you want me to pull it up?
Yeah, go ahead and pull it up. That would be great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Go ahead and start talking, and I'll pull it up a while.
Everybody, I'm just so excited to be here tonight. Let me first just say, how awesome are these organizations? I'm a mom. My son was diagnosed at age 3 for autism, and he is now 25 years old. So I have seen these organizations move and grow. And, you know, Patty, you had said to the audience, you said, is anyone out there? That was the title of your Zoom tonight. And I just have to say, from an old mom to any mom out there, any parent, invest in these organizations. Outstanding content, outstanding opportunities to not feel alone. Hang with these organizations, make friends, make family friends, and just outstanding programming opportunities. I've used their support through the Autism, well, I was going to call it Mary Helen Autism Society, but Autism Connections. So, so I'm here to just encourage you on that part. Just top of the line, excellent organizations with great content and a great heart. So there we go. To move on. So I think one of the pieces that is challenging for many parents is that autism is a spectrum disorder. So you have people, individuals, adults on all ends of that spectrum. So our organization, and for my purposes, my son was non-speaking autism. He was nonverbal for many, many years. And I was lost trying to find his voice. And so our organization and community here in Cincinnati grew because many people had non-speaking or unreliable speaking kiddos, and they needed their voice, you know, and they wanted help. And so, so I'm going to tell you about an organization, and it's actually now 20 years later, just exploded worldwide as far as all the different kind of break off groups using sensory integration in order to establish the ability for them to communicate via letterboard, via eventually typing, talking, and that's kind of where the methodology has evolved. So I don't know if many of you have heard of these groups, but if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. And I will leave my information at the end. And I know we're on a time crunch, so I'm going to fly through this. All right. So the group I created and helped to facilitate is Rapid Prompting Method, RPM, Cincinnati Community on Facebook. You are it is free. Come join us. I think we have about 500 people here in the Cincinnati area. So it is founded by Soma Mukapage, and she is the person who you see right in front of us. And you can flip to the next screen. And then Unlocking Voices is another group that's very active out of London. So a brief introduction to Rapid Prompting Method. We can flip to the next slide. So, you know, it is growing around the world. So here are some of the places. You've got opportunities to meet with people all over. If you move, there will be someone connected with you. There are RPM support groups. There's Halo training centers. There are providers here locally that do RPM to help you get your kiddos to communicate. And then there are also many RPM partnerships throughout the world that you can contact. So the next slide you can go to. So a little bit of background. RPM was developed by Soma Mukapage. She's a teacher and a chemistry professor who has a son with autism. She's the founder of the Halo Clinic in helping autism through learning and outreach in Austin, Texas. She does camps every spring, summer, and winter. That is how I took my son from non-speaking to letterboarding, to typing, to now talking and letterboarding and typing. So our life has changed because now I know exactly how he feels, what's going on, and his world has expanded because his communication has expanded, which I know in the heart of hearts of all moms and dads and family members out there, we want that communication. So let's keep going. So here are some of the manuals. Now there are even more. There's a new one out on speech and how do you integrate speech with the method of RPM. So we can just tell you there are a lot of resources out there. There's a lot of help. This manual, actually, I always tell the parents, buy the first manual, the red one, read it, and then kind of get absorbed and understand that. Before that's kind of like step one. So, again, lots of information, lots of learning, and it's parent friendly. So a lot of this is parent friendly, which makes it great. So continue on to the next page. Okay, so here's a few kind of quick details about what RPM is. It is a teaching method. It's tailored to each student's open learning channels. It empowers the learner with the best possible means to express his or her thoughts, understandings, learning, and reasoning. Rapid prompting method gives students alternative means of expression that are tailored to their alternative sensory and cognitive development. RPM involves learning through senses and reasoning, choices, spelling, writing, speaking to communicate. And the use of senses, or what they call your senses or your open learning channels, for better understanding and application. So for example, my son would bang books. He'd read them. He'd like turn them upside down. He would not be, I was like, well, he can't read. He can't understand. He's kind of engaging in a sensory manner, right? A lot of flapping, a lot of rocking, a lot of, sounds and squealing, right? Many different sensory modalities that these kids have. So what RPM does is, instead of saying, hands down, they integrate that movement into learning, kind of like Helen Keller. You know how Helen Keller was taught, right? She was, so we won't go into all of that, but they use sensory integration. So that's kind of the premise, without getting into a long, detailed discussion about what rapid prompting method and other methods, like you may have heard recently, communication for education. Jen Jordan at Q102 is working with a company, Julie Johnston, and it is actually a break off of RPM. Many of these methods, RPM began, and then many have developed out their own programs. So this sensory integration method has been life-changing because communication happens for these kids. So lots of different opportunities to learn about RPM, to learn about this type of sensory integration method in order to get communication for your kiddos. So you can flip to the next screen. So it incorporates the use of strong sensory channels. So for example, auditory, kinesthetic, tactile, and visual. A lot of times one of the things that they told me when Ryan was first diagnosed was that, children with autism are visual. Well, he was opening up the books upside down. He was not visual. He couldn't do a picture schedule. He couldn't do anything. and we had done every type of therapy possible. But what we realized was that Ryan was actually learning, but he was auditory. So kind of like Helen Keller, his eyes were not working, but his ears were working. So Soma taught him for 2 years as if by auditory teaching. And then slowly he said, such interesting, he spelled this 2 years later. Interesting teaching, such interesting teaching, got eyes looking. So it's a method that integrates their senses in order for them to learn. So the next slide, that we can just keep going here. So here are a few examples. So in a communication method like RPM, if your child, he might be for example, Ryan, a very auditory child, right? So if his eyes aren't looking, how much is he going to learn? If you're showing him visual flashcards, writing things, his eyes aren't working, right? So with RPM, she incorporated tearing paper, right? It's an auditory cue. Tapping on the table, using your voice, using a calming voice when speaking, or tactile. Like my son, he was very fingers in the mouth, fingers on the wall. And so she would use those to engage him in teaching, and then learning, and then reasoning, right? And so all of these pieces, kinesthetic, you've got a kid who's running around the room. What do? Try to drag him down and sit him in a chair, right? So you're using the act of you becoming the stim, you engaging in a movement-oriented teaching method in order to engage their focus. So, and then visual, lots of drawing of pictures, lots of tracing shapes, creating paper manipulatives. All these pieces are what? They're based on your sensory system. And what is with many children with autism? They have a dismantled sensory system. So in order for them to focus, their sensory systems have to be engaged, right? So, so we can go to the next slide. And here it is, the ultimate, what every parent wants. When you say to the kiddo, get your shoes, you want joint attention, right? You want the kiddo to go over there and get his shoes. Then you want him to put them on, right? So the teach to that open learning channel, whatever those sensory pieces are. And he's very, like my kiddo, and many are very distracted. They have anxiety. They're constantly unfocused, right? They're intense. Their minds are intense because, my son says that to me all the time. Mom, so sorry, mind is intense, right? So I understand that now. I have compassion for him now. But that those stims is trying to calm him. So when you use the stim and you teach in that channel, you gain joint attention, and then learning takes place. And I mean, it's just amazing. I just can't tell you how beautiful this methodology of teaching is. And again, we'll flip to the next slide. The skills that you can incorporate with using RPM, right? You've got spelling and grammar. You've got full communication. My son, here's his he communicates on a letterboard with me. He met his sister's new boyfriend, and he got to letterboard to Mr. Daniel. And you know what? It changed Daniel and so many people, because he doesn't have a voice, but when he has a way to communicate, and he told his sister, Daniel, so very nice, kind heart. And I thought, okay, he's in the family. We'll keep him. But he is approved by Ryan. But needless to say, you can do motor planning like RPM helps us to cook. RPM helps us to keyboard, to handwrite, to be social, to learn social manners, to integrate into autism connections, organizations, and activities, because why? He has a way to communicate, right? That's the part for math or numbers that we used to do. But so anyways, I know I don't have enough time, so let's just keep going. It's very encouraging for those parents out there who have non-speaking kiddos. So here's kind of the progression. It started out with 2 pieces of paper. Teach and ask. Today we're going to talk about President Lincoln. Who did I say? Spell it out. 2 choices, to 3 choices, to 4 written choices. Then we started out with, 6 letters. We bent it. And then 12 letters, 24 letters. And, Ryan still today cannot tie his shoes. And I want to tell parents that, we still have our challenges, because the motor planning challenges are very difficult for our children. But we have a way to break through, to be able to understand. Like he told me, Mom, don't make me write in front of therapists. I feel like an idiot, write like a baby. When he was 16, working on handwriting. And we wonder why our kids have these behavioral outbursts. Because you know what? They're embarrassed. But no one will know that. You just think he's defiant. He's not doing the letterboarding or the handwriting with the therapist. So I say to you, think twice about you don't know what's going on in here. And their bodies are hard to control. So, okay, next one, large stencils, and many different stencils, many different ways. And it moves to, so now we're letterboarding. He graduated from Ohio Virtual Academy. He got a degree. He took testing. He was able to do mathematics. He was able to do algebra. All these things that I would never have seen. So it's just well worth your intention for 2025 to consider looking at this kind of sensory integration method for your kiddos. So there is a website. You can join Unlocking Voices, has lots of beginner videos out of London. They're real active. You can find a local provider in the area, and there is a wait list already. So I don't know if she's still on a wait list, but that's an option. I know now there are some therapy centers that are doing RPM or have specific therapists who have been trained in RPM. So might check that out, ask around as well, or contact me, or call Halo. You can call Halo as well, or post on our Facebook group, RPM Cincinnati Community. Plan to attend. Here, I always recommend this. So this is how we started. It's a 4-day instructional camp. I think now she only charges like $900 for 4 days. I mean, that's 2 sessions every day for 4 days. I mean, I paid $500 for an hour consult, and they didn't even touch Ryan. So it's very affordable and there's scholarships available through Building Blocks for Kids. Attend level 1 training as parents. They offer parent training all the time. And you know what, parents? You don't want them you want your kiddo to talk to you for the rest of your life. Not a therapist. They're going to be there for a time, but they go on. So I encourage you to get empowered to learn yourself. And then there are also virtual consultations. So lots of opportunities here for you to take advantage of. Okay, let's see. I think that's it. Is that the last slide?
Yep, that's it.
Okay. And I
If
don't,
you, yeah, if you can put your, or some of the contact information in the chat that people can copy. And then I have this PowerPoint, I'll have it out on our, available on our Google, Salt Drive as well. So I'm gonna take
Great.
that down.
thank you,
And
Patty, for doing this.
yes,
You're awesome. So good for parents. Great night. Thank you.
I mean, over the course of the years, like I said at the very, very beginning, we're hitting our 10-year with SALT. In the Southwest Montgomery, Greene, and Warren counties, started January in 2015. And I've come across so many parents that struggle with the nonverbal, communicating, and just the difficulty just learning and understanding their child's disability and what they can do. And it gets very frustrating when you can't communicate, that communication level. As a parent, you want to help and you don't know what to do. And it gets to be very, very frustrating and very challenging. So I appreciate like all the speakers that came tonight. As I mentioned at the very beginning, for those who came on later, I have them put all their contact information in the chat box because they know people. They may have some answers or guidance for you in their specific area, but if you're the Autism Connections, Teresa's been doing this for a long time, and you have your Down syndrome, they all know other groups as well. They all know there are organizations within the state, within the state. And if I heard, I think it was Autism Connections mentioned that people were reaching out to them from other states. I mean, the location there, you're kind of in a tri-state area there anyway. But if I remember correctly, especially during the COVID years, there was people attending from a lot of the virtual from all over. So they have a lot of resources, connections. And as Cindy had mentioned from the Autism Connection, she can help if you do move out of state. We do have some military families that may move out of state. It is helpful to have that person that they can say, hey, I live here now. Who do I talk to? And it's like being able to tap into someone that maybe can help you get reconnected wherever you are or with the proper channels. It is so very helpful. I do want to stop the recording. So as I mentioned at the beginning, that we can, have a discussion, or if someone wants to, instead of typing out their questions, they can verbally ask, because I know sometimes it just gets to be too much typing. So I want to thank the speakers for coming tonight, and I'm going to close the recording for now, and then we'll continue this discussion here in a minute. 1 second.